Utah definitely has enough talent to beat the Cowboys on Saturday. Thankfully, though, in Big 12 country, we are not the hated ones or the hated bunch. Although Utah fans are going to hate to find out that the wide receiver Utes, unfortunately, would not start at the Big 12's wide receiver U.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use a code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase, especially if your first purchase is to the Utah-Oklahoma State game. I will be there. I cannot wait for this. This has been circled by a lot of people nationally, but of course us, for quite some time. Just like this has been circled for quite a long time for Utah fans. And although they do have more than enough talent that we are going to talk about that can definitely make things problematic for us in Cowboy country on Saturday, it's been evident that giving the statistical reasonings why Mike Gundy and Alan Bowman might be above Kyle Whittingham and Cam Rising is being viewed as arrogant, which is extremely ironic coming from the Utah fan base. Now, obviously not everybody, every fan base has a section that probably goes too far too often. But more often than not, Utah fans have been very disparaging when it comes to conversations and comments about the Big 12. And this started way back before they even joined the Big 12, which is kind of why it seemingly appears as though most of Big 12 country is cheering for the orange and black this Saturday. And Utah, they painted this target on their backs and their chests everywhere by themselves. We've been very welcoming to all of the Big 12 schools. Utah, however, has decided to outcast themselves. Before they ever even got in the conference, they did nothing but talk about how trash the conference was, and it was the flyover, truck stop, garbage conference that they didn't want to be a part of. They were too good to be in the Big 12. They fancied themselves more along the lines of the Big 10 and good enough to be in the SEC. We've heard ad nauseum about how winning a bunch of Pac-12 titles means so much because the Pac-12 was so much better than the Big 12 that the Pac-12 is still rocking and rolling and kicking tail. We've heard for quite some time, even after getting the invite to the conference, that you weren't happy about it. You didn't want to be in the trash, ridiculous truck stop Big 12. But since you were going to be here and you had to, catch a little bit of momentum before you went to the Big 10 or the SEC, that you were going to dominate everybody along the way. Again, not everybody, because every fan base has a group of fans that say crazy stuff. The difference between Utah and everybody else in the conference is it's a big, big portion of the fan base. And it goes deeper, I would imagine, than just the fan base, right? You've heard rumors that possibly some of the chancellor, president level individuals at places like Utah and Arizona State didn't really want to be in the Big 12 either. That's fine. But it is irritating whenever Utah fans try to come after Oklahoma State or anybody and calling them arrogant whenever they have been painting a target of how negative they wanted to be and was proud of being. I know words are hard for me sometimes. So they're going to take this pride and they're going to try to use it on Saturday, as they should. And I'll tell you this, without a bunch of vitriol flowing from this perspective, it's going to take a lot to get it done. They have enough to get it done, but one position group that they do not have the ability to counter Oklahoma State in is wide receiver. Whenever I say we are the Big 12 wide receiver you can ask anybody in the conference, and likely nobody's going to argue with that statement, because the lineage of great wide receivers, not only in college, but in the NFL from Oklahoma State, kind of speaks for itself. Whenever you look at Utah's wide receiver crew, you're talking 10, 12 wide receivers that it would take to combine to get to the top 3 wide receivers of Oklahoma State. Again, not just spitting ridiculousness. It would take double-digit Utah wide receivers to equal Oklahoma State wide receivers main 3 in production. Because, again, as we love to say here, stats lives matter. If you combine USC transfer Dorian Singer, Micah Pittman, Monty Parks, Damian Alford, Munir McClain, Dedrian Zipperer, Rayshon Glover, Luca Caldarella, Tayshawn Lyons, they equal 5,424 yards. The 3 wide receivers of Oklahoma State that play the most are Rashad Owens, Brendan Presley, and Dejon Stribley. They have 5,720 yards amongst just themselves. To get on the even playing field with Oklahoma State wide receiver room, you would have to add in running backs Dejon Stanley and Mekhi Bernard to eclipse the Oklahoma State top 3 wide receivers. And then if you factored in Talon Shetron, the de facto number 4 wide receiver at Oklahoma State, who just proved recently, once again, that he's a dude that everybody needs to be focused on, that's 6,000 yards. So it takes double-digit wide receivers at Utah, plus their 2 running backs, to equal 3 to 4 wide receivers in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Now, if this is misconstrued once again as arrogance, please let me know down in the comments section what I could do to potentially lower down some of the rhetoric being spewed from my end. But the fallacy being presented, at least by some, that there's a bunch of Oklahoma State arrogance by me or anybody else, when Utah fans have proudly hooted and hollered till the cows come home about how much they don't want to be in this conference, and they've thought forever that they've always been way better than this conference, and they always will be. The arrogance isn't coming from us. And I guarantee you, outside of that 60 minutes, most everybody in Stillwater will treat you better than you've been treated anywhere else in the country. It is different. We do treat people different because Stillwater, America, is God's country for a reason. We cannot wait for Utah fans to experience this. But once again, please do not try to come after Oklahoma State country talking about being cocky or arrogant when we've all in Big 12 land had to hear nothing but Utah is going to be just like OU. And now you're seeing some OU fans, root for Utah. I'm not going to say that 2 birds of a feather flock together, but I mean, I guess win in Rome maybe would be better. So that's, I guess, the vitriolic negative. So now let's get to the positive and the Utah Utes that do, in fact, permeate up and down this roster, particularly at one position that we may not be able to stack up with, or at least some guys that we need to pay attention to because they are going to be trouble. What is not trouble is trying to get the monetary gains together for this game. And you already know FanDuel is the best in the land, or we wouldn't bring them up all the time. They're the number 1 sports book in America for a reason. And if you haven't taken the jump into FanDuel, what are you waiting for? Right now, they're giving you something a little bit different too. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with YouTube TV's base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game, and all you'll need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can then cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com, America's number 1 sports book. Go hammer the over on the Cowboys and hammer the over maybe on the wide receiver core getting it done against the Utah Utes. If you're getting your monetary department right, then maybe you should get game time tickets squared away today. Getting tickets to the Utah-Oklahoma State game should be somewhat problematic, right? You would anticipate that in a big game. But Game Time allows you to get great deals on tickets all the way up to the start of the event, even up to an hour after. Plus, they have a lot of features like Game Time picks that make getting tickets faster and easier for you. They filter out all of the craziness so you get incredible deals on seats so fast that you don't have to spend hours of time wasted searching at thousands of tickets. Customize the best tickets in the game for yourself. The curation makes it easier to save more on sports, comedy, music, theater, and more. The all-in pricing allows you to know the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The seat views are the best because they're panoramic, and then you know exactly where you're sitting before you even get to the stadium. Take the guesswork out of you buying any tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but make sure that you create that account, redeem that code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Lowest prices in the game, guaranteed. Get Game Time tickets downloaded and squared away today. We're going to get squared away with the Utah Utes that seemingly could give us fits in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and likely a decent amount of these fellows will. Of course, this is going to start with Cam Rising. I think that to some degree, he's a little bit rusty, right? He is shaking off that rust from having a year off of football, essentially. Then he comes back. He has a few phenomenal quarters, of course, but then he gets hurt, and now he's coming back, and maybe he can be surgical once again in Stillwater, Oklahoma, but it could be problematic. I'm not going to sit here and pretend, though, that he doesn't bring something to the game that is worth every single ticket. So make sure you get Game Time tickets. Next is number 80, the tight end, Brent Keithy. The dude is an absolute savage, and for whatever limitations they do have at wide receiver, they don't have at tight end. This is a pick and pull type of situation. You can basically grab a tight end off of the bench for Utah, throw them out, and they're going to be productive. But he is the most productive with 156 receptions for 2,024 yards at 13 yards per completion. Another big 6'5", 230-pound Auburn transfer, number 82, Landon King. Big body tight end that could be a matchup issue. A definite 100% matchup issue for anybody is Caleb Lohner. The 6'7", 250-pound basketball player can definitely get up, but his route running is seemingly improving every single week, and he's physical. He doesn't mind getting mixed up a little bit in the run game, so he's somebody we have to pay attention to, as is Carson Ryan. 6'4", 252-pound UCLA junior is an absolute beast, as is number 88, Dallin Bentley. 6'4", 260-pound Snow College junior, college All-American. We know what Snow College can produce, so we know Dallin Bentley is likely a problem as well. Again, they could use 4 tight ends, 13 personnel, 14 personnel, jumbo, ace, heavy, whatever, and it's going to be slightly problematic. But thankfully, Arkansas ran a lot of the heavy ace jumbo packages as well, so it gives us a decent look. Then whenever you factor in the running game, speaking of Arkansas, we all know what Jaquindon Jackson was able to do to us in Stillwater, so we do have to pay attention to Mekhi Bernard. The 6', 206-pound running back has been rushing since 2019, and he was able to spell Jaquindon Jackson quite a bit, so we already know he's been productive. That production has equaled 1,482 yards thus far in Salt Lake City. The other running back / wide receiver that we do have to mention is Dejon Stanley, number 23. His 176, 180-ish yards, basically 120 of it's come on wheel routes. Not exaggerating, but if you do not pay attention to that, number 23, if he gets out on a wheel route and you do not stop him before he gets a full head of steam and the ball's in the air, probably not going to touch him and or catch him, so he is a problem. Defensively, number 5, it's kind of like there, Kendall Daniels, Nehemiah Vaughn. At 6'3", over 200 pounds, this cornerback from Beaumont, Texas, will no doubt be ready. I don't know if he'll have the speed. We're about to see. Number 30, John Randall Jr., another cornerback we got to pay attention to, not because he's going to be on the field killing it, but because number 30 is an Oklahoma State legacy that chose the wrong school and went to Utah, so he might get a little bit of a point and laugh award. Number 7, nobody's going to point and laugh at this defensive end. That is 6'4", 260 pounds, Van Fillinger, with 109 tackles, 17 sacks, 24.5 tackles for loss. The dude is a dude that you have to pay attention to. And if he's on the outside, you got to look inside at number 58. 6'3", 305-pound defensive tackle, Junior Tafuna. He is a 3-time all Pac-12 member, and realistically, what he's been able to do makes it a lot of make sense. Makes it make a lot of sense. Yes, again, words are still hard for me sometimes. Then you got to go back to the safety room, number 15, 6'1", 200-pound free safety, Tao Johnson. The redshirt sophomore doesn't have a lot statistically, but if you've seen his most recent interception, the dude is so fast that, much like Dejon Stanley, if he gets an angle and he gets some steam, he's probably going to be so far gone, we might not catch him. And then you have number 0 on the defensive line, defensive end, 6'4", 250-pound BYU transfer, Logan Fano. Now, those are obviously going to be pretty fun. We know in Bedlam country what some of those matchups can be like. So those are some of the dudes that we do have to pay attention to. I know that with Morgan Scalley, they are going to be very schematically squared away, and defensively, they have a lot of team speed. From sideline to sideline, east to west, that team speed is pretty close to Arkansas. I will give them that. But they do not have an Arkansas-level Xavion Sori Jr. style linebacker that I could see, or a Nick Martin style guy that I can see. At safety, it's possible that I'm overlooking something and I'm missing something. And if that's the case, Utah fans, feel free to let me know down in the comments section what I could be missing in the back end, because what I can see is that there's some susceptibility in the back end for Utah, just like there is to some degree for us. But the difference between our wide receivers and Utah's wide receivers are not only statistical, but they're almost immeasurable. I think the Cowboys will get it done offensively because of that attack. Everyone's going to talk about Ollie, and everyone has talked about Ollie because he's a Doak Walker Award. That was short list, top 5 Heisman for a lot of reasons. It hasn't lived up. We get that. But for every ounce of energy that everybody wants to focus on Ollie Gordon, they're seemingly forgetting that this wide receiver room is still part of the Big 12's version of wide receiver U. Not being hyperbolic. Go back and look at the Blitnikoff Awards, the top 3 Blitnikoff finalists. Look at the NFL wide receivers that have done crazy things coming out of Stillwater. This is some sort of a factory. The wide receiver coach upgraded to offensive coordinator, but nobody can question he's amazing with wide receivers and getting them here and making them productive. So productive, in fact, that Utah doesn't have a lot that can match it. Therefore, if it gets in a track meet, I do favor Oklahoma State. I'm giving my prediction already on a different show, so I might as well let it fly here. I'm going 41-38 good guys in orange and black. And again, this is the good guys not just coming for me, but most of all in Big 12 country is cheering on Oklahoma State because of the sanctimonious pretentiousness that Utah fans, by and large, have presented to the conference. Not just us, not just K-State, Iowa State. Utah has garnered this attention. Just like Ollie seems to garner almost too much attention, enough attention that it's starting to become somewhat frustrating. But you don't have to be frustrated. Get involved with NIL like never before. Roy, a.k.a. ROY, is your opportunity to get closer to your favorite athletes and be involved in NIL like never before. It stands for Return on You. It's a new platform that lets you, the fans, get more involved with NIL than ever before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. By supporting players that you directly choose, it can kind of help you shape rosters, retain talent, and keep your favorite athletes out of the portal and in your favorite town. As we all know, NIL is changing the game for athletes, and Roy is changing the NIL game for you, the fans. You can directly support the players. Right now, Roy is allowing fans to directly give back to their favorite college athletes. With Roy, fans can play a key role in shaping the future of their favorite teams, with athletes maximizing their name, image, and likeness potential. Exclusive content means that fans contribute to a successful campaign. They then receive access to exclusive content from the athlete such as their announcement decisions, behind-the-scenes footage, and other personal reflections, all of which are only available to the fans who support the athlete. Engage with the athletes on their NIL journey by using Roy. Fans not only support athletes financially, but also become part of their NIL, which is part of their journey in today's landscape of college football. You can help them succeed both on and off the field. Download Roy for iOS and Android to enter a referral code locked on to receive an automatic chance into a sweepstakes to win $5,000. Visit Roy.com for additional details. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Get Roy app for iOS or Android and start making an impact on your favorite team now. Use that code locked on all together for an opportunity to win $5,000 cash. Visit Roy.com for more details. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. That is Roy, ROY.com. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. Support the players, change the game with Roy today. Get squared away so you can be a part of the NIL game. Ali, please get set free this weekend. For the phenomenal pass protection that we've seen out of this offensive line, the consistency and the continuity that we all hope to see out of the run game is frustrating. And everyone in the country has noticed that Ollie is down to like 3.5 yards per carry. Of course, we all know that that's not typical for Ollie Gordon. We also know that we had to transition from a zone blocking scheme that had a lot of problems in pass protection to this more power-oriented run scheme that Charlie Dickey was kind of famous for helping run at Kansas State. So it is odd that now, all of a sudden, we're phenomenal at pass pro, but we seem to be struggling mightily in run blocking. It just seems like there's a disconnect. And part of this disconnect is the impatience from Ollie Gordon. So regardless of whether the O-line is having difficulties getting to the second level and getting to the third level, we do need to see a little bit more out of Ollie. This needs to be a game where we schematically find a way to get him more involved. If it's not just in the A gaps, right, maybe we got to do a little bit more sideline to sideline, which is kind of scary because Utah's team speed is phenomenal. But we've seen it before. We've been here before. We've been this many games into the year before with Ollie not having a whole lot of production. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that this has been purposeful. I do think this has been extremely frustrating for both Ollie and the O-line. I think you do see that on Saturdays when they're playing the game with the frustration that seems to be coming through the TV screens with Ollie. This has to be the game, the reintroduction of sorts of Ollie Gordon to not only Big 12 country and Utah fans as we welcome them into Stillwater, Oklahoma. But the nation does need to be reminded because likely there will be a negative connotation permanently attached to whatever Heisman campaign or a Doak Walker campaign for that matter, because his lack of production against Arkansas, lack of production against Tulsa, and to some degree lack of production even to his standards against South Dakota State. If he does have a massive close to the season, it might not end up mattering. But I do think that it will be held against him. So we need to give him every opportunity because if we do not, and Ollie Gordon doesn't reach his full potential, or at least reach a decent amount of his potential, to me that sends a negative message to the next running back of his caliber that wants to come back. Just like it sends a negative message if the O-line can't help get it going, and that same running back made sure that they all got a little bit extra to dedicate another year to Stillwater, Oklahoma. We need to see Ollie free this Saturday, please. Casey Dunn, Charlie Dickey, and to some degree, find a way to get Ollie going. Don't force a square peg in a round hole. I think that there's plenty over the top that we can take advantage of. But at the end of the day, we do have to get him going. This does have to be a big day for him. Shush, as it very well should be. Free Ali, because even though the wide receiver room is finding a way to carry us, and Alan Bowman has been more than sufficient in the role that we need him to fulfill, we have to balance this thing out for us to get to the CFP. All of that's still in front of us. All of it's still possible. But we all know that Ollie Gordon does have to get freed up at some point in time for us to reach the levels we think we can. All righty, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. As always, hit the like button if you like the daggone thing. More importantly, comment, share, subscribe. My podcast and people out there. You're the bricks, the butter, the bread, the fondue, the fountains, and hanging out with my famous dogs. All righty, y'all. Hit the stars, leave a review, do what you do. Later, my taters.